Today, guys, we're going to jump in and talk about Act 2 of Episode 1, which of course is Echoes, as the next major part of the episode will drop on July 16th, and it's going to bring a whole bunch of changes to the game, also some new content, weekly quests, story, activities, but also weapons and rewards. But as we've seen, Bungie will be making Sandbox adjustments, we're getting new artifact perks, season pass ranks, and event content, so we'll talk about a hidden weapon coming for Solstice this year. And the goal of this video is to round up all of these sort of fragmented bits of information that we've had over the past few weeks to pretty much cover everything that we actually know in the most concise way possible. So if you want to know what Act 2 is really about, we're going to go into a bit more depth in this video. As always, I hope you enjoy it, and if you do, get subscribed to the channel as we'll have plenty more content to talk about in the next few weeks. But now, let's get into it. And so once again, Act 2 of Episode 1 will kick off on July 16th, and that's when a whole bunch of new items and content will come into the game. Some players have asked whether they'll still be able to complete bits of content from Act 1, and yes, as far as we know, everything from Act 1 will still be in the game, quest steps, activities, rewards and things like that, so we can just continue as we are, but we get the addition of new content as well. One of the first things that will happen is that the Season Pass will be expanded, so currently we've got 100 ranks of Season Pass and rewards, but when Act 2 drops next week, we'll get another 50 ranks. So there will be a bunch of items that we previously haven't been able to get access to, things like the Red Death Catalyst, exotics, cosmetics, and so on, so the next 50 ranks will become available next week. On top of that though, of course, the artifact will also be expanded, and there will be an additional row of perks added. I should mention as well that the Season Pass and artifact will once again be extended when we get to Act 3. But in terms of the bonuses that we're going to get for Act 2, one way of looking at it is a series of buffs for the Still Hunt exotic sniper, and so we will get anti-barrier sniper rifle, plus there'll be authorized mod scavenger, and the energy cost of scavenger mods will be significantly discounted. But additionally, we have incendiary rifle rounds, and solar sniper rifle precision hits will scorch targets, so of course that will apply to Still Hunt, as well as other weapons, the Ikelos sniper for example. Plus there'll be solar fulmination, and your ignitions do increased damage in an increased radius, so that'll be a good one for solar classes in general. And then there is sniper's meditation, and sniper rifle hits will grant a stacking sniper rifle damage, stability, and reload bonus for a short time, and heavy ammo sniper rifle hits will count as more than one. So snipers are getting a lot of love with the new artifact mods. And again, when you put it into perspective with how things like Still Hunt are currently performing, there are no planned changes to that weapon that we've heard about yet, so it's only going to get even more monstrous when these updates drop. Next up though, let's talk about the content rollout, and firstly, we will be seeing story steps each week for the first 3 weeks of this upcoming act. So Bungie have clarified that Echoes will continue to have weekly story beats for Act 2 and 3, whereas upcoming episodes are going to drop all 3 weeks of the story at once at the beginning of each act. So that's something to keep in mind for the future, but for the moment, the rollout will stay more or less the same. And additionally, for the first 3 weeks of each act, we'll get new NES research quests, the ones that Failsafe has been giving us, so they're not super exciting, but they're part of the episode progression overall. Then outside of the story component, there will be a new game mode, which is the featured activity for Act 2, and that will be Echoes Battlegrounds. So Bungie have said we'll get 2 new Echoes Battlegrounds on week 1, with the third one being added in the second week. So there'll be Battleground Delve, Conduit, and Core, and there will also be a story link to these drop-ins, so they'll also be linked to the wider narrative of Echoes. Bungie showed off some gameplay for these in a recent live stream, so we get a bit of an idea of what they'll look like, and they'll primarily come with that updated Nessus aesthetic, which is cool. On top of that though, there will be an expert difficulty of Echoes Battlegrounds, and where we had planetary pistons for the Breach executable activity, Battlegrounds will feature assimilation pistons, which are essentially the same thing, but it'll actually mean we get different kind of mineable materials associated with them. So we can see from some of the seasonal challenges, there'll be Azure and Golden Radiolite, which will assist us in continuing to unlock upgrades and general progress at Failsafe. And then in terms of rewards, outside of the cosmetic items from the Season Pass, small updates to Eververse and things like that, of course, primarily players will be interested in the updated weapons. So firstly, we get a brand new one. This is the Solar Rocket Pistol Sidearm, the Aberrant Action. We saw a little bit of gameplay of this during Bungie's recent stream, and it's the first Solar Rocket assisted frame weapon that we've got, where in trait slot 1, we can roll things like Strategist, Pugilist, Field Prep, Beacon Rounds, Threat Detector, Ambitious Assassin, and Heal Clip. Then the second slot can get Snapshot, Harmony, Golden Tricorn, Demolitionist, Swashbuckler, Reverberation, or Incandescent. Obviously there will be standout roles on this, but overall in terms of the perk pool, this is definitely one of the best rocket sidearms we've seen. Peel Clip Incandescent's going to be really strong, Beacon Rounds Incandescent, but also we can lean into ability related stuff, Pugilist, Demolitionist, and there are magazine and ammo bonuses there as well, so it's going to be a really solid weapon. I'm looking forward to picking that one up. On top of that though, there's a new pulse rifle, which is the Corrasion Heavy Burst Arc Pulse Rifle, and trait slot 1 can get Air Trigger, Perfect Float, Pugilist, Eddy Current, Enlightened Action, Perpetual Motion, and High Impact Reserves. Then slot 2 can get High Ground, Eye of the Storm, Frenzy, Swashbuckler, Volt Shot, One for All, or Focused Fury. So that looks pretty good as well, but Perfect Paradox will finally come back into the pool, which is one of the reprised Season of Dawn weapons or Saint 14 themed weapons, so it will get the Cast No Shadows origin trait, then it can roll Threat Detector, Slide Shot, Field Prep, Dual Loader, Pugilist, and Threat Remover in the first trade slot, and slot 2 can get Trench Barrel, Swashbuckler, Opening Shot, Vorpal Weapon, 1-2 Punch, or Barrel Constrictor, so there are some fairly decent rolls on that as well, and this is a rapid fire frame kinetic shotgun, so let us know any perk rolls that you'll look out for on these particular weapons. And those will be added to the Echoes engrams, reward drops for completions of the activities, and so on. So I think overall that's a solid introduction, but we'll also get the mid-episode update during Act 2. Bungie indicated that this would drop alongside Solstice. Solstice will begin on August 6th, so it's 3 or 4 weeks away from now, and the tuning changes that they've confirmed so far include that Tex Mechanica Scout Rifles, both the exotic and legendary variants, will be seeing a 30% damage buff in PvE, so that'll affect Dead Man's Tale, but also the new Scout Rifle from Episode 1, and any of the Tex Mechanica modeled Scouts, so that's a fairly significant buff. There's also one for Ariana's Vow that we're getting on top of the rework from the final shape, and that's a 67% damage increase against barrier shields. And as if sniper rifles didn't get enough love already, they will be halving the PvE flinch for most of them, so that will be a lot less obnoxious. Plus they're removing penalties from adept mods, increasing reserves for special and heavy weapons with a range of between 10 and 15%, and that's a generic change, so that's also pretty huge. But on top of that, they'll reduce the reserve mod energy cost, so some pretty juicy sandbox stuff happening across the course of Act 2. Of course, the only other thing to add to this list is the recently announced nerf to the Still Hunt, or at least the pairing with Celestial Nighthawk. So Bungie have said they are reducing Still Hunt's Golden Gun shot damage when paired with Celestial Nighthawk by 25%, and so it isn't a base nerf to the weapon, and obviously it only affects that interaction, so it certainly could have been worse. We will, however, have to see what other changes Bungie may potentially have planned in the future. So let us know your thoughts on these sandbox adjustments down in the comment section. So in the first week, of course, we get access to those new artifact mods, the Season Pass upgrade, and then the new story starts rolling out, plus there is the new activity, the 3 new weapons that are being introduced, and that will really fill the first kind of 2 or 3 weeks of Act 2. And following that, we'll get into Solstice, the mid-episode update with the sandbox changes, and I think Solstice will run for 2 or 3 weeks as well, which pretty much takes us up to when Act 3 will drop, so it certainly makes the seasonal calendar busier than what we had with Seasons standalone. And in that way, it's kind of obvious that episodes are improving on that part of the game overall. But then for Solstice itself, which is dropping on August 6th, Bungie did show off the armor, so we've got a better look at that now for all 3 of the classes. But additionally, Solstice will get a bow as the weapon this time around, so we don't know what it's called as it's currently invisible in the database with the exception of the perks. We do get a look at the actual weapon model, and we can see how that matches the Solstice armor for the year, especially with the base shader and some of the sort of icons and textures on there. But for the weapon itself, it's a lightweight frame bow, which comes with void damage. It'll get the Viced Stinger origin trait, so it's a Viced weapon, plus it gets Dreamwork, which is the Solstice origin trait, and once per reload, assists or assisted final blows partially refill the weapon from reserves and increase reload speed for a short duration. On top of that, bows receive faster draw time. Then slot 1 can get Repulsor Brace, as well as Air Trigger, Archer's Tempo, Enlightened Action, Hipfire Grip, Successful Warm-Up, and Loose Change, with slot 2 able to get Disruption Break, Destabilizing Rounds, Golden Tricorn, Kill Clip, Opening Shot, Precision Instrument, and Archer's Gambit. So it's kind of wild that it can get all of the different draw speed bonuses between Dreamwork, Successful Warm-Up, Archer's Tempo, and Archer's Gambit. It'll be one of the fastest firing bows in the game, but of course there are other options there as well. I'm especially interested in getting a Destabilizing Rounds version of this, but that'll be the new Solstice weapon, and so in a sense it kind of means we get 4 weapons, I suppose, legendary-wise, for Act 2. And there we have it, that's what we know about Act 2 at the moment. Again, there'll be some folks kind of coming back, looping back in to see what Act 2 is going to to be about, so I figured a video that actually rounds up all of the important info in one place might help a bunch of folks out. So if you found this one helpful, a rating below really does help us out. Give us your impressions on what you're most interested in for this upcoming act. And otherwise, I'll also be keeping you posted with all of the content when we get it, so keep it locked and loaded right here. Hit that notification bell down below as well, so that you don't miss out on any content. But otherwise, cheers for tuning in today, guys, and I will catch you all very soon.